Downton Abbey's timeline follows the lives of the Crawley family from 1912 to 1928. The series itself spans from 1912 to 1925, and the two movies from 1927 to 1928, which is when Downton Abbey, A New Era, is set. In England, these decades were a time of rapid changes in social structures, with the rise of the working class, decline of the aristocracy, and World War I. Over the course of 6 seasons and 2 films, Downton Abbey entwines the fictional characters' stories with the true historical events going on around them both in the UK and the wider world. The Downton Abbey timeline begins with Season 1 in 1912, just after the sinking of the Titanic. Across 6 seasons, Downton and its residents live through World War I, the Spanish influenza pandemic, structural economic shifts, and rapid social changes. The successful 2019 Downton Abbey movie takes place shortly after the events of the series, in 1927, and Downton Abbey, A New Era takes the Crawleys into 1928 amid the rise of Hollywood. Downton Abbey Season 1. 1912 to 1914. Downton Abbey Season 1 is set right at the sinking of the Titanic on the night between April 14 to 15, 1912. Both of the male heirs to the Downton Abbey estate are believed to have perished in the disaster, and a distant cousin, Matthew Crawley, Dan Stevens, becomes the next in line. The memorial service for James and Patrick takes place 3 months after the sinking of the doomed ship. The season also sees Albania declare independence from the Ottoman Empire, bringing Kemal Pamuk to England, where Mary becomes attracted to the newcomer. Throughout Downton Abbey Season 1's timeline, war is looming, and the fabric of social life is quickly changing. During these years, the UK saw the Liberal government, 1905 to 1915, in charge and a rise in movements for equality, such as the suffragettes, in which Jessica Brown Findlay's Downton Abbey character, Lady Sybil, takes part. Downton Abbey Season 1 ends with the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand and the official start of World War I in August 1914, when Britain declared war on Germany. Downton Abbey Season 2. 1916 to 1919. Downton Abbey Season 2 picks up with the Battle of the Somme, which occurred between July 1 and November 18, 1916. This means there was a 2-year gap between the first and second seasons. During this time, the Military Service Act went into effect, and Ireland declared its independence, both in 1916. While the second season starts in 1916, it quickly moves forward to 1917 for the second episode. The second episode of Downton Abbey Season 2 is set in April 1917, when the war is in full swing. The Crawleys decide to convert their estate into a wartime hospital, while several of the men from Downton join the army, including Matthew and footmen William and Thomas. Much of the season moves through the Great War and jumps ahead in time, often from episode to episode, before finally reaching the war's end in 1918 in Episode 6. Just as the Great War ended in November 1918, the Spanish influenza pandemic took hold, lasting beyond the events of Season 2 until 1920. The Downton Abbey Season 2 Christmas episode occurred in the winter of 1919, and served as the finale of the show's sophomore installment. Downton Abbey Season 3 narrows the timeline to just 2 years and is set between 1920 and 1921. Having come out of the war and the pandemic, the Crawley family contended with losing their fortune due to the Earl's failed investments in the Grand Trunk Railway in Canada and the eastern United States, which went bankrupt between 1919 and 1920. In the post-war period, many great estates struggled financially and were sold, a fate which Downton was determined to avoid. David Lloyd George was the Prime Minister during this time, up until 1922, and 2 brewing revolutions, women's suffrage and Irish independence, reached Downton. In the Season 3 Christmas special episode, the family spends time at Donegal Castle before Downton Abbey's Dan Stevens' exit and Matthew Crawley's tragic death. This special covered events from September 1921 until Christmas, and on top of Matthew's death, it also featured the birth of George Crawley on the same night that Matthew died.